All right, today we're going to talk about something that's really shaking up the idea of mentorship. And look, this isn't just some dry list of rules or a new framework. It's really a story about how we think about guiding people and helping them grow. So let's just dive right in. Every good story kicks off with some kind of aha moment, right? And this one is no different. It starts with a mentor who has this sudden realization. This universal truth hits them. No two people learn the same way. It just doesn't work. Everyone's got their own pace, their own things they're curious about, their own big dreams. And once you realize that, it immediately leads to a huge question, doesn't it? If everybody's journey is different, how on earth can you have one single map that works for everyone? You can't. And that's the big challenge, the central problem we're going to dig into. So this brings us to what we can really call the mentor's dilemma. And it's a problem that, it takes more than just meaning well to solve. It's going to demand real empathy, a whole lot of patience, and honestly, the guts to try something new. And this really gets to the heart of it. That old one-size-fits-all approach, it just doesn't cut it. It's not effective. If you really want to make a difference, you've got to be willing to throw out the script, Just toss the playbook and actually listen, really listen to the person sitting right across from you. Okay, so how do we solve this thing? Well, it all starts with a total shift in mindset. This is kind of the turning point in our whole story. It's where we move away from this super rigid process and embrace something way more flexible, something that's truly human-centered. And you can see the difference so clearly here. On one side, you've got the old way, the standard, cookie-cutter method. But on the other, you have this new, human-centered approach that's powered by something called design thinking. We're talking about a massive shift from generic, boring processes to creating personalized paths for growth. It's about innovating for people, not just for profit. So you might be asking, what exactly is design thinking, especially when we're talking about mentorship? Well, think of it as a philosophy, a powerful one, where you put the learner, their needs, their struggles, their goals, smack dab in the center of everything. So instead of just handing them a textbook and saying, read this, a mentor might ask, hey, what's the one thing you are dying to learn about? Okay, great. How can we build a whole project around that? See, it starts with the person, not with a pre-made plan. And here's how that big idea, that philosophy, gets turned into a real practical step-by-step process. First, you start with empathy. Really understanding where the learner is coming from. Then you define what their unique challenges actually are. After that, you ideate. You brainstorm all sorts of different ways they could learn, not just locking them into one path. And finally, and this is key, you test it out. You reflect on what's working and you adapt. It's this awesome, continuous loop of growth, not just for the mentee, but for the mentor too. Okay, so a mindset is great, but how do you turn it into a system you can actually use? That's where we get to the nuts and bolts. This philosophy gets its structure from what's called the SNS growth framework. So this framework is built on two big ideas that work together. First up is the 3P culture. This just makes sure everything is driven by a clear purpose, organized by a solid process, and is always focused on the people. Then, holding that up, you've got the 3C framework. This is about developing a person's attitude, their mindset, how resilient they are, then their logic, or how they think critically, and finally, their technique, which is the hands-on practical skills. You put those two things together, and you get an environment where people can really grow in every way. And this is the actual path that mentees walk down. It's called the 5 pillars of growth. And you'll notice it's so much more than just hitting the books. It's a whole journey. You start by building knowledge, sure, but then you upskill, strengthening your actual abilities. Then you use those skills to innovate and create something of value. From there, you network and connect with the community. And finally, you give back, because that social responsibility piece is crucial. So, what's the end game here? What's the whole point of this entire system? Well, it's not just about helping one person get ahead. It's actually about something much, much bigger. A really ambitious mission that's designed to have a serious real-world impact. And that mission, it starts with a number. A big one. 1,000. 1,000 what exactly? 1,000 AI startups. Yeah. This is where this whole mentorship idea slams right into the cutting edge of tech and entrepreneurship. And they're not messing around. There's a ticking clock on this vision. 10. That's right, 10 years. So let's put it all together. The mission is to create 1,000 AI startups in just 10 years. I mean, that's pretty incredible, right? It just goes to show that this SNS model isn't some dusty old theory on a shelf. It's a full-on engine for innovation, and it has a seriously clear and audacious goal. And I think this quote just sums it all up perfectly. The real challenge, the real goal, isn't to just create a bunch of mini-me's, a bunch of followers. It's to nurture thinkers, innovators, and leaders. It's about empowering people to think for themselves, to go out and challenge how things are done, and to become leaders in their own unique way. So let's leave you with this final thought to chew on. What if mentorship wasn't just a method? What if it wasn't a checklist or a set of rules? What if it was a mindset, a dynamic, empathetic, human-centered way of thinking? Imagine that. What could we all build? What could we all create if we approached it that way?